I had reached an age where mirrors no longer argued with me. They simply stated facts. 60 years of living had settled gently on my face, carving lines where laughter once lived and shadows where tears had rested too long. I had stopped trying to impress anyone years ago. Clothes were chosen for comfort, not charm. Hair was brushed quickly, without ceremony. Beauty, I believed, was a chapter I had already read and closed, stored somewhere between youth and responsibility. That morning, like many others, I stood in front of the mirror without expectation, unaware that something fragile inside me was about to awaken. Life at 60 had become quiet, almost rehearsed. I woke early, made tea, listened to the same old sounds of the neighborhood breathing into the day. Children rushing to school, vendors calling out, doors opening and closing. I had survived love, marriage, loss, and loneliness. I had raised children, buried dreams, and learned how to smile without asking why. Romance felt like a foreign language I once spoke fluently but had long forgotten. I believed the heart also retired with age, slowing down, beating only out of habit. That day, I went to the small community library where I volunteered twice a week. It gave my days structure, a sense of being needed without being questioned. I liked the silence of books, the way stories waited patiently to be opened. While arranging returned novels on a shelf, I felt someone standing nearby. I assumed it was another visitor, so I didn't look up immediately. There was no reason to. No one ever looked at me with curiosity anymore, and I had grown comfortable with that invisibility. When I finally turned, our eyes met briefly. He was around my age, maybe a little older, holding a book close to his chest as if it mattered deeply to him. There was nothing dramatic about him, no striking features, no polished charm. Just a calm presence, steady and respectful. He smiled gently, not the kind that expects something in return, but the kind that simply exists. We exchanged a few polite words about the book he was searching for, and I guided him to the correct shelf. As he thanked me, he paused for a moment longer than necessary. Then, in a voice so sincere it caught me off guard, he said, you are still beautiful." The words were soft, almost hesitant, as if he feared they might be inappropriate. My breath caught. My hands felt suddenly clumsy. A strange warmth spread through my chest, followed by an unfamiliar sensation, shyness. At 60 years old, I felt shy for the first time, because someone had seen me not as age, not as routine, but as beauty. After he left, the library felt different, as if the air itself had shifted. I stood there longer than necessary, holding onto the shelf to steady myself. His words echoed in my mind, gentle yet persistent. I tried to dismiss them, telling myself it was just kindness, just politeness. But my heart refused to agree. It had recognized something my mind had long forgotten, the feeling of being noticed, truly noticed, without expectation or demand. That evening, as I walked home, I became aware of myself in ways I hadn't been in decades. The way my shawl rested on my shoulders, the rhythm of my steps, the quiet dignity in my posture. I wasn't trying to look beautiful, I simply felt present. For years, I had moved through life shrinking, blending into the background, believing that invisibility was the natural reward of aging. But his words had gently disrupted that belief, reminding me that beauty does not expire, it only changes its language. At home, I brewed tea and sat by the window, watching the sky soften into evening. Memories began to surface, uninvited but not unwelcome. I remembered the first time someone had called me beautiful, decades ago, when the word felt natural and expected. Back then, beauty was something I wore without thinking. Compliments were received casually, almost carelessly. But now, after years of silence, one simple sentence had shaken me more than 1,000 declarations ever had. I questioned myself deeply that night. Why had those words mattered so much? Was I lonely? Had I been starving for acknowledgement without realizing it? The answer wasn't simple. I wasn't searching for love, nor was I dissatisfied with my life. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped seeing myself as a woman with a heart capable of being touched. I had reduced myself to roles, mother, worker, volunteer, forgetting that I was still a person with emotions waiting quietly to be stirred. As I prepared for bed, I caught my reflection again. This time, I didn't rush past it. I looked carefully, noticing not just wrinkles but strength, not just tired eyes but wisdom. I didn't suddenly see a young woman, I saw myself, fully and honestly. And for the first time in many years, I smiled, not out of habit, but out of recognition. That night, sleep came softly, carrying with it the gentle question, what if life still had something unexpected waiting for me? The following week, I found myself anticipating my days at the library in a way that surprised me. I wasn't waiting for him specifically, or at least that's what I told myself. But there was a subtle awareness, a quiet hope that lingered in my chest. When the door opened, I looked up instinctively. When it wasn't him, I returned to my work, slightly amused by my own behavior. It felt strange, almost youthful, to experience anticipation again. When he did return, it was unplanned and simple. He came in holding a different book, nodding politely as if nothing extraordinary had passed between us before. But this time, our conversation lasted longer. We spoke about authors, about how stories change when read at different ages. He spoke thoughtfully, with pauses that suggested reflection rather than performance. There was no flirting, no urgency, just two people sharing space without the need to impress. Over the next few weeks, these conversations became part of our routine. Sometimes we spoke for minutes, sometimes for longer stretches when the library was quiet. He never crossed boundaries, never asked questions that felt invasive. Yet, in his presence, I felt seen. Not as someone to be admired, but as someone worth listening to. That, I realized, was what had been missing, not romance, but recognition. I noticed changes in myself. I began choosing colors I hadn't worn in years. I walked with a lighter step, not because I expected attention, but because I felt connected to myself again. Aging had taught me caution, but this connection taught me courage. I wasn't reclaiming youth, I was reclaiming presence. There was beauty in that realization, deeper and more stable than anything I had known before. One afternoon, as we parted ways, he simply said, "I enjoy talking to you." There was no weight in his words, no hidden promise. Yet they settled warmly in my heart. At 60, I understood something I hadn't at 20, that love doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, wrapped in respect, asking nothing more than space to exist. And for the first time in years, I allowed that possibility to remain open. Life did not suddenly transform into a romantic story, and I was grateful for that. There were no dramatic confessions, no urgent decisions. Instead, there was consistency, something far more comforting at this stage of life. We shared tea occasionally after library hours, sitting across from each other like old friends rediscovering familiar ground. Our conversations drifted toward life, past marriages, regrets we had learned to forgive, moments we wished we could relive, and others we were relieved to leave behind. What struck me most was the absence of pressure. At 60, we both understood that time was precious, not to be wasted on pretending. There was honesty in our words, and kindness in our silences. I realized how rare that was. In youth, love often demands proof. In maturity, it offers understanding. I felt no need to define what we were building, and neither did he. One evening, as we walked slowly through the park, he spoke about loneliness, not as a complaint, but as a companion he had grown used to. I listened without trying to fix anything. In return, I shared how I had learned to make peace with solitude, even when it felt heavy. Our stories didn't compete, they complemented each other. It felt like two parallel lives briefly aligning, not to merge, but to walk side by side. There were moments of hesitation within me. Society does not expect hearts to awaken at 60. It teaches us to settle, to accept that certain doors are permanently closed. I questioned whether allowing myself to feel was foolish. But each time doubt arose, it was met with a deeper truth: denying feeling does not make one wise, it only makes one numb. And I had spent enough years numb. One day, as we sat quietly, he looked at me and smiled, not the careful smile of politeness, but one of comfort. In that moment, I understood that beauty at this age is not about being desired, it is about being valued. His earlier words echoed again, but now they carried more meaning. I was beautiful not because of how I looked, but because I was still open, still capable of connection. That realization felt like a gift I hadn't known I was allowed to receive. At 60, I no longer believe in grand endings or perfect beginnings. Life has taught me that meaning lives in small, honest moments. If someone were to ask me what changed after that day in the library, I wouldn't speak of romance. I would speak of awareness. Of how one sentence reminded me that I had not disappeared from my own life. That I was still here, still feeling, still human. The shyness I felt when he called me beautiful was not embarrassment, it was awakening. It was the quiet recognition that my heart had not retired, that it still responded to kindness and sincerity. I didn't suddenly become someone new, I simply returned to myself. And that return was more powerful than any love story I could have imagined. We never promised each other forever. We didn't need to. What we shared existed in the present, steady and respectful. Sometimes love at this age is not about possession, but about permission, the permission to feel without fear, to connect without obligation, to be seen without performance. That was enough. Now, when I stand in front of the mirror, I no longer rush past my reflection. I see a woman who has lived, lost, learned, and still stands with quiet grace. Beauty, I have learned, is not a phase, it is a presence. It deepens with honesty and shines through acceptance. At 60, I felt shy for the first time because someone reminded me of something I had forgotten. And for that, I am grateful. Not because it led somewhere dramatic, but because it led me back to myself. Sometimes, that is the greatest love story of all.